Hey Playas, how you doing? Welcome back to another episode of Playas Guide. Previously, last week's episode, I talked about how I am perfectly willing to embrace digital gaming and the digital future. Now, this is mainly because I really like a lot of indie games, and the easiest, quickest, and cheapest way to play most of those games is just to download the digital version. But I got into that last week. So in the comments, a lot of people were interested in, like, what are you doing? What are you going to collect then? Where is collecting going? Now, I've covered the retro gaming bubble, and I've covered what the future of video game collecting looks like. But in this episode, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to be collecting and what I think you should be collecting as games make this transition towards digital. So stick around if you're interested in buying the games that are going to most likely go up in value and demand over the next few years. Okay, so the games that are going to go up in the most immediate sense are the games that have the Nastolgia Factor. If you haven't heard of the Nastolgia Factor, I'll put a link in the description below for a previous video I did a few weeks back that explains what the Nostalgia Factor is. And it's basically the trend that follows different consoles for nostalgia, and that's where they start to see more and more inflation. But what about long-term collecting as the shift to digital and these massive libraries are coming out for newer consoles? Well, I'll tell you what. Because there is always a worry of online stores shutting down, people not being able to buy games, and people worried about, like, well, you can't resell or trade or let someone borrow these other games. What are you going to do? You're going to go out and you're going to buy physical copies of games that were released and are being shut down on different stores. So the games that will most likely be targeted for this by collectors and gamers are the ones that were exclusive. So if you're talking about a game that was exclusive to the Wii or the PS3 or PS4 even for that matter, the exclusivity of these games will create demand for people that want to have them and want to have a physical copy in their collection, or they're concerned about preservation. And I do believe that preservation is a very important thing in gaming. It's going to be detrimental in the future that people preserve these games, otherwise they may be lost forever and we don't get to play them as gamers. So this is where the collectors come in, trying to, preserve these games as preservationists, not just collectors. And you're going to be going after the games that maybe didn't get a physical release, were exclusive to a console, and didn't get a re-release. So if you get a game that fits all three of those, is exclusive to a console, didn't get re-released, and was not released digitally, so that means the only way you can play it is that one version on the one console in a physical form. Those are the games that will most likely, even if they're not that popular, see a long-term growth. Now, if it is a popular game, like a lot of first-party Nintendo stuff, that for sure is going to hold its value or continue to go up. And we've obviously seen this with a lot of Mario games. That's something that we will continue to see, especially as the trend towards digital progresses. Now, Nintendo, I think, will always be around in some form, so you'll probably be able to get all their games digitally somehow. But if you want to own a physical copy, those are good games. They're good games and they're a safe investment. But that's just my 2 cents. There's a lot of other really great games out there that are more obscure and will probably see greater increases in price. Now, I recently watched a YouTuber named Pete Dorr, and I know Pete from Twitch. He's actually a really great guy, and I would recommend you go check out his channel if you haven't already. He recently talked about a few games that he thinks are going to go up in the future, and he went into great detail about why exactly he thought that. And some of the things that he mentioned are some of the things that I'm touching upon right now in this video. And he was saying he's going to continue to do some more videos like that. Now, I'm not going to be going through different games and describing why each one is going to go up in value or why it's rare, has demand right now, or could in the future. There's just so much out there to cover, and I don't know everything, but he's a knowledgeable guy, and I do recommend you checking out these videos that he's putting out. Now, there is the risk of disc rot when you're talking about disc-based consoles, and I talked about this before in many videos, including last week's video. There's also bit rot. We know about these things. They do happen. Disc rot is more likely to occur. So for myself, I'll be looking for those exclusive disc-based games or the more rare disc-based games because they will hold value for longer, and I'll just keep my fingers crossed that they don't rot away. Also the ones that I really want to play, which are probably already in my collection already, because I do keep up with many of the current generations of games, especially the indie stuff. I gotta love that and my homebrews. But yeah, as that happens, you gotta look at what is on your shelf. Like, look at these games behind me, these loose SNES games, and you see some other games here I'm sure that maybe you've had your eye on, and if they are no longer playable, are they completely worthless? And to me, I would say most likely. Maybe not completely, but for the most part, the value would significantly decrease on all of them. So if you're concerned about that, and for the cartridge-based stuff, I'm really not. I don't think I'm going to see too much of that in my lifetime. If the games get handed down to the next generation of my family or so on, it might be an issue for them if they even care about it. So yeah, I'm not too worried about the cartridge-based stuff too much. Might see a little bit, might not see any of it. Only time will tell. But if you are concerned about that and you do like to collect, something to consider, and I know the market's really hot for this, but is CIB and especially sealed. Because here's the thing, if a game is sealed and you get it put on a slab and graded, and you're not concerned about playing it, maybe you love the game and you have a loose copy or a digital copy, whatever that you play, you have that physical copy in your collection, sealed. I mean, it's a nice thing to look at, and if that's what you want to have, it doesn't matter if that game works or not inside, because it's never going to be opened. So go for the sealed games. And if you're going to go for the sealed games, the most obvious choices would be the higher end games, and some of the more rare variants of the more popular games, which some of this stuff has come to light for those of you who are already collecting sealed games or interested in it, or been in touch with what's going on in the sealed and graded game collecting market for retro games. For me, I totally think the cartridge-based and older stuff is the way to go. I really like that. I do like a lot of disc-based games, but I'm going to be sticking to the cartridge-based stuff and focusing more on that in the years to come as there is a digital shift from a preservationist standpoint and from what I enjoy. I might start picking up a few sealed games that are some of my favorites, or games that I speculate on might go up in value and are just going to be so far up in price in the next 5 to 10 years that I could never dream of touching them anymore. In fact, they're so high, I would even maybe consider selling them. But that's where I would gear towards with the older stuff now, is some of the sealed things. If you're talking long term, you're at all concerned about bit rot or digital gaming and you want to preserve things, that's really the best way to do it. Those games you're going to want to definitely consider condition. That's going to be a big deal, especially on the CIB if it's not a sealed game. Um, the other thing too is think about this. There is a lot of popular games that are going for a lot of money right now, and they're great. A lot of people want to have them in their collection, so they command a high value. And a lot of collectors are trying to snag them now, which might not be a bad move. But I do think that the truly rare games, whether they're rare cartridge only or rare sealed only, are the ones that are just going to continuously go up and up and up, whether, they're playable or not. It doesn't matter because they're sealed. Games like Flintstone Surprise at Dinosaur Peak. I'm pretty sure that there's only one that I know of, maybe two sealed copies of that game out there, and you can bet it would go for a fortune if it ever hit open market, and would continue to have some sort of demand even when it's not for sale. So those are my thoughts, folks. I hope I shed some light on, what you should maybe look at collecting or adding a little bit of to your collection, because those games will go up in value. And if you don't have the ones you want that are either sealed or, very exclusive games, they will become harder to get because other people will catch on to this as more and more people accept that the future for gaming is digital. If you'd like to talk more about this, leave a comment in the comments below. Give the video a like if you found it informative or helpful. And please share it with your friends or retro gaming or collecting communities so that other people like you and me can, get in on the Playas Guide. Playas Guide is also on Twitch nearly every single day of the week with different retro gaming talent. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and if you're looking to really dive in deep in the conversation of video game and retro gaming and collecting, then please join our Discord. There's a link to all of these below in the description. Until next time, later, players.